Alrighty everyone, now we are just weeks away from the debut of Snow White 2025 by the Walt Disney Company starring Rachel Zegler. We already know that this is going to be a box office disaster. Even Disney themselves are embracing this to be a box office failure because of the amount of funds that they poured into this actual film and how a lot of families, a lot of audiences out there are boycotting this film outright. They want nothing to do with Snow White, the live action remake starring Rachel Zegler, who, by the way, alienated well over 50% of the United States, of the American citizens, when she got way too political in the press tour for Snow White. And this is where it begins to get even worse, because we know that a lot of other celebrities, a lot of personalities out there are beginning to actually comment not just on Rachel Zegler, but the actual general argument of Snow White and its performance by Disney. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So Bill Maher, of all people, is now also beginning to criticize Rachel Zegler and Snow White as a whole, and we know that a lot of other talk show hosts, a lot of other celebrities are beginning to comment on Rachel Zegler's Snow White. And it's only going to get worse as the weeks roll by until the 21st. Now, the 21st is going to be crucial for Disney because we obviously know that this is going to be the very day where you're going to have a lot of press, you're going to have a lot of interviews going on about this movie between Gal Gadot, Rachel Zegler, and Andrew Burnap, and among other cast members. But let's get into the actual meat of all of this, because this is where it really begins to get very interesting when it comes to Bill Maher and how he actually has a very interesting take on Rachel Zegler and Snow White. Now, with the Walt Disney Company already attempting to hit into damage control over the upcoming Snow White film set to release on the 21st, one major development going on now involves more to do with Bill Maher and how he called out Rachel Zegler in the midst of the Snow White backlash just weeks before its unveiling. Now, Maher delivered the following. It's one thing for Disney to expect a Disney princess to gain this acceptance when you are still promoting DEI, but it's another thing for them to expect audiences to support their film after their lead star, Rachel Zegler, decided to insult well over half the country. And I think the one thing that critics have right with this actress, who just seems to be so well, how should I put this, in her own world, and acting like one of the worst theater kids in existence. But this is why so many families don't want to support a film like this, that stars someone who acts like a 12-year-old child, and a brat. Nobody wants that. I don't care if you are a man or a woman, nobody wants to support someone like that to represent Disney. And that's the problem still when it comes to Hollywood. You have many of these actresses like Rachel Zegler that just believe that they can keep hammering their beliefs with politics and their ways of activism, and people have grown tired of it. And I'm not just talking about Trumpers, but it's everybody. People are just tired of all this garbage that's being thrown into these movies that are supposed to be so innocent. I mean, heck, we are talking about a story that's supposed to focus on a prince saving Snow White, a prince saving a princess. After all the things Rachel said about the original film and how she dared to throw Trump's politics into the promotion of this movie, it just shows you how unorganized Disney is, and that's why they are now trying to clean themselves up. I think when you take one look at Rachel's attitude, it surely reminds you of that one know-it-all in high school. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, and I'm just not sure if she's going to take the performance of this film very well. Because obviously no families want to see this, no parent wants their children to see this film to support someone like Rachel Zegler. I sure have had my criticism about Disney over the years, but I think the right move here, and what they should have done, is if they really are serious about moving away from DEI, is that this film should have been put on hold at the least to make adjustments or just cancel it outright somehow and take that loss. Now guys, before I move on, let me just say one thing about Bill Maher, is that he does have a very valid point here. As much as I am a critic of Bill Maher, seems like he's beginning to become, quite more of a critic of everything to do with Disney, everything to do with all these studios that just shoehorned all of this garbage, agenda-driven nonsense over the years. What he does have a very interesting point on is the fact that if Disney truly was so serious about shifting away from DEI, I don't know if you guys caught wind of this, but we talked about how Bob Iger came out, how they are moving away from many DEI elements in their movies and television programs. Whether or not that truly means that they are fully backing away from DEI, who knows, but regardless, if they really were that serious about calling it complete quits with DEI, they really could have if they wanted to. If they really wanted to, they could have canceled this movie. They could have made some kind of arrangement where they at least put a hold on it, like Bill Maher said, and did some things differently with the actual movie. And, well, that's just not happening. So again, I think that Bill Maher has an interesting point there. However, moving onwards, he goes on to actually go on further about this. He states, "I know it's easier said than done, but come on, let's get real. This is going to be an embarrassment both for Rachel Zegler and Bob Iger. He hasn't really had a good 2 years now, has he?" And that's another thing that Bill Maher is putting out there. What he's alluding to is how Bob Iger is dealing with a lot of box office failures, a lot of ratings disasters, especially throughout 2024 and 2023. Those were 2 very big years where Disney really took a major loss when it came to their image getting further destroyed, when it came to brands like Star Wars and Marvel and Disney remakes and Disney animated material on Disney Plus just backfiring on them. It's continuing, but not quite as bad in 2025. We already saw what happened with Captain America 4 and how much of a failure that film was, just because it was a bad film in isolation. Not necessarily just because of DEI, but let's be real, that movie was just bad. So, this is why people are tired, Bill Maher says. I mean, did you see what this film's about? It's about Snow White saving society. Now, I don't remember that happening in the 37 original. It's exactly why audiences have grown exhausted over Disney's shenanigans of throwing in messaging into their programs and into their theatrical releases, such as with this one. So again, if you guys take one look at the latest trailer for Snow White, you could see that there are elements of, I would say, a Star Wars film mixed with Snow White. There's something odd going on there, where it's like you have this like resistance trying to save society in a Snow White movie. It's just very odd to me when you look at how the trailer's put together. Again, I mean, Bill Maher is really putting out a lot of points about Rachel Zegler, about Snow White, about how Disney really just, if they wanted to, they could have just shifted away from this movie and delayed it at the very minimum. They're not doing that. They know it's too late, that's why, at the end of the day. There's too many complex routes to take to really delay it this late in the game, or to even cancel it this late in the game. So they're stuck with this disaster, and I think that you're going to see a lot of madness coming from Rachel Zegler, a lot of outrageous interviews, and you're going to see more and more about that when she begins to actually see reality setting in, that families don't want to support a film like this, especially after all the things that Rachel said out there, after she also tried to play the victim card, after she blamed sexism and misogyny left and right. You know, she's right up there with Meghan Markle, she's right up there with a lot of other personalities that are very insufferable, and it's going to continue to get worse as we get closer to the release date of Snow White 2025, there's no doubt about that. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Bill Maher, about Rachel Zegler, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.